There was a morning I'll never forget. It was quiet, still, the kind of morning when even the light seems to hold its breath. I was standing by my door, ready to leave for another long day, when my grandmother's voice echoed from the kitchen. She said softly, "Baby, don't forget the salt." I laughed. "Salt? For what, Grandma? I'm not cooking." She smiled that knowing smile, the kind that hides 1,000 prayers, and said, "Not for your food, child, for your shoes." I remember staring at her, confused. She took a pinch of salt between her fingers, whispered a prayer I couldn't quite hear, and sprinkled it gently into the shoes sitting by the door. Then she looked at me and said, "Wherever you walk today, walk with purpose, walk protected, walk preserved." That small act, so simple, almost strange, stayed with me for years. Back then I thought it was just an old tradition, one of those wise but odd things elders do. But as life unfolded, with its heartbreaks and healings, its victories and valleys, I began to understand that salt was never just salt. It was faith in motion. It was love disguised as ritual. It was a reminder that even the smallest act, done with intention, can shift the ground beneath our feet. So today, I want to take you on a walk. Not down a city street, not across a mountain road, but through the sacred journey of what it means to walk with salt in your shoes, to move through life with purpose, with protection, and with peace. In the next few moments, we'll explore why this ancient symbol still matters today, how it can heal the wounds we don't show, and how, like Dr. David Yonggi Cho once said, faith becomes real when you start to walk it out. So, take a deep breath. Kick off whatever's been weighing you down. And before we take the first step together, I'll ask you the same question my grandmother asked me that morning. Did you remember the salt? Long before gold was weighed, before kings ever placed the first crown upon their heads, there was salt. That small crystal once held great worth, not only to season food, but to preserve life itself. Salt kept food from spoiling, kept wounds from infection, and in the realm of the spirit, it reminded humankind that certain sacred things must never fade. In the days of the Old Testament, when two people made a covenant, they would share salt together. Each would take a pinch, mix it with the others, and say, "As these grains of salt cannot be separated, so our covenant shall remain forever." Thus, in Leviticus 2:13, God commanded that every offering presented to him must be seasoned with salt, not for flavor, but as a reminder that the promise between man and the Creator must be preserved, uncorrupted, unchanging. And later in Matthew 5:13, when Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth," he was not speaking of taste, but of steadfastness, purity, and the power to keep the world from decay. In ancient times, salt was more precious than gold. Armies marched for salt. Kingdoms traded their lands to possess it. Pilgrims carried it as treasure. Salt could cleanse, heal, and unite. Yet today, we leave it quietly on our kitchen shelves, forgetting that it once symbolized a sacred promise. Salt has never been just salt. It is a mark of endurance, of loyalty, and of love that never fades. So when we say, "Put salt in your shoes," we are not speaking of superstition or forgotten rituals. We are simply reminding one another to walk with a guarded soul, with promises kept, and with a faith that does not waver. For in every journey, no matter how modern, the human heart still needs something ancient to keep it pure. And only when we understand this can we truly see how salt can heal the wounds within when life begins to hurt us. The ancients believed that shoes were bound to one's journey. Where we place our feet, where we walk through, becomes the map of our life. So when they placed a pinch of salt inside their shoes, it was not a strange habit, but a silent declaration. I will guard my purpose. I will purify the path I walk. It may sound simple, but in psychology, symbolic actions like this hold real power. When a person performs a gesture filled with sacred meaning, the brain records it as a spiritual anchor. a signal that awakens faith. Just like lighting a candle or placing your hand over your heart in prayer, salt in your shoes is a way to help the mind reconnect with the soul, a reminder that every step has purpose and worth. Many cultures understand this in their own way. In Japan, people sprinkle salt at their doorsteps to ward off evil and keep the soul at peace. In Korea, salt is used in housewarming rituals to bless new beginnings. And in Western churches, salt is consecrated and used for purification, symbolizing the unbreakable covenant between humankind and God. Wherever you look, the meaning always points to the same truth. Salt preserves not only the material, but the spirit. If you wish to practice this ritual, you need not do anything complex or superstitious. Just take a small pinch of salt, place it gently inside your shoes before stepping out. Before you put them on, pause for a second, take a deep breath, and whisper within, "Today, the path I walk will be purified. Every step I take carries meaning." No grand ceremony is needed, only a quiet heart and sincere faith. Because sometimes what keeps us steady is not something great, but a small act that reminds the heart it is still walking in the right direction. When we learn to guard our path with faith, we begin to understand something deeper. That salt does not only preserve, but can also heal when life begins to hurt us. Each of us carries wounds that cannot be seen. Maybe it was a word that made your heart heavy, a moment of betrayal, or a dream that shattered quietly, never spoken aloud. They do not bleed, but they leave a silent sting deep within the soul. And just like when the skin is cut, if we wash it with salt water, the first touch burns, it stings, it aches, and we instinctively pull away. But that sting is the beginning of healing. Because salt cleanses. Salt disinfects, protecting the wound from infection so the body can renew itself. The spiritual life is the same. When truth touches pain, it burns. But it is in that moment that the soul begins to heal. Perhaps that is why people say, truth may hurt, but it also saves. In one of his sermons, Pastor David Yonggi Cho once said, "Faith does not deny pain, faith walks through it." Those words echo like a gentle reminder. Faith is not a shield to hide behind, but the feet that carry us through the storm. People of faith do not pretend they are unhurt. They simply choose not to stop there. They let the salt cleanse their wounds, let faith turn pain into strength, and keep walking. And with each step, pain ceases to be an enemy. It becomes the very soil where hope learns to grow again. For only when we have burned to the core can we truly feel the tenderness of healing. When salt touches the wound, it teaches us a silent truth, that sometimes pain itself opens the path to peace. And once the heart has been cleansed, once it has learned to rise after being broken, we can finally begin to learn the next lesson. How to stay true to who we are in a world that melts away like sugar in the rain. If you drop a pinch of sugar and a pinch of salt into hot water, you'll see the difference right away. Sugar disappears almost instantly, melting into the water, leaving no trace behind. Salt, though it also dissolves, still keeps its flavor. No matter what it's mixed with, salt leaves its mark. It never loses its nature. It simply stays, quietly present. That image is no different from how we live today. This generation is surrounded by all kinds of sugar, sweet, pleasant things that make us melt easily. Praise, likes, the instant feeling of being seen and approved. They bring quick joy, but they also drain our endurance and rob us of depth. When everything can dissolve with just one tap, we begin to forget how to stand firm, how to wait, how to persevere, how to endure the fire of trials. Social media and a rushed pace of life make us addicted to the feeling of being seen, being heard, being liked. Small doses of dopamine each time the screen lights up. But that's what slowly takes away the saltiness of our souls. The taste of truth, of persistence, of steadfastness. People start chasing feelings instead of values, comfort instead of growth. And slowly, the self becomes fragile, melting under the heat of pressure. Salt is different. Salt can withstand fire. It is refined by heat, by time, by the repeated process of dissolving and crystallizing again. It does not fear boiling water, because in that very place it reveals its strength. People of faith are the same, not because they are fearless, but because they understand that trials do not erase who they are. They make them purer. In a world that worships ease, to keep your own saltiness is rare. But that very rarity is what makes a person distinct, trustworthy, and worthy of respect. When a soul remains salty, unmelted by fleeting sweetness, it radiates the scent of life, even in the fire. And one day, we will realize, true strength does not lie in avoiding the heat, but in remaining true while standing within it. Only when we have learned to stand firm in the fire can we finally learn to walk with purpose, no longer swept away by the restless tides of the world. There is a saying by Pastor David Yonggi Cho that has made many people pause and reflect. Dreams become reality when they are prayed for, visualized, and walked toward. The words sound simple, yet they hold an entire philosophy of life. Because not everyone who is moving is truly moving forward. In the rush of modern life, so many of us are in motion, but not really walking. We move because the clock pushes us, because work demands it, because we fear being left behind. But when night falls and we look back on the long day, we feel tired without knowing why. Busy, yet empty. Because movement does not always mean living with purpose. To walk with intention is to take each step with clear awareness, to know why we walk, for what, and toward whom. It is when the mind, the heart, and faith move in the same rhythm. There are small signs that tell us we are living unconsciously. Waking up in the morning without truly looking forward to the day. Working only to finish tasks without feeling meaning in what we do. Always busy, but never closer to any dream. Letting our emotions be controlled by other people's reactions. Feeling lost, even when surrounded by many. When those signs appear, perhaps it is time to stop and realign our direction. We don't need a grand transformation, just a return to 3 simple things. First, clarify your why. Ask yourself, why did I begin? This question is not to find an excuse, but to rediscover the soul of your journey. When you know your why, the path ahead naturally becomes clearer. Second, set boundaries. Not everyone is meant to walk every part of the road with you. Know when to say no. Know what wounds your spirit and protect the sacred space where your faith can breathe. Third, take one small action each day. A phone call, a word of gratitude, a single page written toward your dream. It doesn't have to be perfect, only consistent, because it is in these small steps that faith is most visible. When movement has meaning, each day becomes a part of prayer, no longer a repetition, but a journey unfolding. And from that moment, every step you take not only brings you closer to where you want to be, but closer to the one who walks beside you. For once you know why you walk, you will also learn how to walk. With faith, even when the road ahead is still covered in mist. There are 2 kinds of people on the journey of life. Those who walk by faith and those who merely try to survive through fear. The one who walks by faith may tremble, but still takes the step. The one led by fear stands still, waiting for safety before daring to move. One believes in what is unseen, the other believes only when everything is certain. Pastor David Yonggi Cho once said, "Vision is the blueprint of faith." At first it sounds simple, but it holds the very essence of how he lived and taught. For him, faith was not walking blindly into darkness. It was seeing with the inner eye. The place where what has not yet happened is already taking shape through belief. He called this fourth dimension thinking, the realm of the fourth dimension. While the first three dimensions belong to the physical world, what we can touch, see, and measure, the fourth dimension belongs to the spirit, to faith, and to vision. In that realm, we do not merely dream, we imagine, we believe, and we act as though what we believe already exists. When a person imagines through faith, they are planting a seed in an invisible space, and through steadfastness, that seed will take root in reality. Many people make the mistake of waiting for fear to disappear before they act, but fear never truly goes away. It only shrinks when we dare to move forward. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to walk even while fear is still present. When Dr. Cho began building the Yoido Full Gospel Church from a small tent, he had no money, no foundation, only a vision he saw in his spirit. He imagined that church filled with light and prayer, and day by day, he walked toward that image, not by fear of lack, but by faith that what he saw in his mind was what God had already ordained in heaven. To walk by faith is to walk with vision, not with instinct. It does not deny reality. It looks through it. And it is in those moments when we are trembling yet still moving forward that faith becomes real. For if we only walk when everything is clear, we walk by sight. But when we walk, though we see nothing but belief, we walk by soul. And through such steps, we learn not only to overcome fear, but to transform it into the very fuel that carries us farther toward the things that have already been prepared for us ahead. There are things we carry in our hearts for so long that we begin to believe they are part of who we are. A painful memory, a relationship gone cold, a word that still hurts no matter how much time has passed. We hold on to them, clutching tightly in silence, afraid that if we let go, we will lose a piece of ourselves. But in truth, it is when we refuse to release them that we slowly lose our breath. Letting go is not forgetting. Letting go is accepting that some things have already finished their purpose. Letting go is allowing ourselves not to keep striving anymore. In this world, nothing remains forever in its old form. Even nature understands this. When autumn comes, the tree does not collapse because its leaves fall. It is simply preparing for another cycle of life. Each falling leaf is the tree's promise. I will live again in the spring. And yet, we humans often see letting go as a sign of weakness. We fear loss. We fear emptiness. We fear not knowing what will happen once we release our grip. But hands that are already full cannot receive anything new. Only when we open them can what has been held too long finally fly away, and what is new find room to enter. There is a simple ritual that helps the soul breathe easier. It is called salt and water release. Prepare a glass of warm water. Add a small pinch of salt. As you stir and watch the salt dissolve, take a deep breath and think of the thing you've been carrying too long. A hurt, a fear, a person you need to forgive. Then whisper in your heart, I release this into your hands. Pour the water away as a symbol that the pain has been dissolved. No one needs to witness it. Only your heart needs to truly want to let go. After this ritual, nothing may seem to change right away, but in that quiet moment, something within begins to move, like the first breath after the rain, light, clear, and real. Only when the soul becomes lighter can the feet continue walking. And once we've learned how to release, we become ready for what awaits ahead, where steps of faith begin to open the door to true transformation. There is something that seems to repeat in every story of the Bible. Miracles never happen when people stand still. They happen when they begin to move. The Red Sea parted only after Moses raised his staff and stepped into the water. The walls of Jericho fell only after the Israelites marched around them for 7 days. And Lazarus came back to life only when Jesus called him to step out of the tomb. Each story shares the same truth. God moves when people dare to move. Faith always begins as an idea, but only when that idea is put into action does it become a miracle. A thought can spark hope, but a step is what changes reality. From vision to miracle is a journey, and that journey is built one small step at a time, even when the path is still covered in mist. Many people pray, hoping for good things to come, yet refuse to move. They wait for inspiration, for opportunity, for clarity. But if we wait until we're ready to begin, we might never start at all. Inspiration rarely comes before action. It usually arrives after we've taken the first step. In the real world, this truth is both simple and profound. A job door doesn't open for the one who only thinks. It opens for the one who dares to knock. A relationship cannot heal if no one takes the first word of reconciliation. A dream remains just a dream if we never lay the first brick. Faith is never separate from action. Prayer is the beginning, but walking is the answer. When our feet begin to move, the divine begins to move with us. Sometimes it's not a loud miracle, but a quiet shift in how we see, how we believe, and how we live. There will be days when you see no difference, but don't stop. Because every small step you take is paving the way for something greater your eyes have yet to see. And when you finally look back, you'll realize the miracle was never just in the outcome, but in every trembling step you dared to take. In the end, faith is not waiting to see, but walking so that what you believe becomes real. When we learn to walk by faith like this, the road ahead becomes more than a journey. It becomes a transformation where every step is a prayer written by the life itself. In the Bible, the salt covenant is a symbol of endurance. Salt never spoils, never fades, never loses its essence with time. So when people offered salt to God, they were saying, this promise will not fade even as the years change. Faith, too, must be kept in the same way. Not through emotions that flare up and fade, but through daily consistency in the smallest of moments. No miracle can last if we are not faithful to what we believe in. A prayer may begin a miracle, but it is the repetition each day that allows that miracle to take root. People often think faith belongs only to the spirit, not the mind. Yet even the brain understands the power of repetition. Every time we perform a meaningful act, writing a note of gratitude, praying, or simply pausing to breathe deeply and remember our purpose, the neural pathways in our brain are strengthened. The more we repeat it, the clearer that path becomes, and the mind grows more confident in what it believes. That is how faith moves from an idea to a habit, and from a habit to a way of being. 7 days of salted steps, a small journey. 7 days, 7 acts. Not perfection, but presence and consistency. Day 1. Write down 3 things you are grateful for, no matter how small. Day 2. Pray for someone else, not for yourself. Day 3. Do one kind act without anyone knowing. Day 4. Spend 5 minutes in silence. No phone, no noise. Day 5. Forgive one thing that still burdens your heart. Day 6. Speak one word of encouragement, even if it's to yourself. Day 7. Place a pinch of salt in your shoes and step out with peace. As these actions are repeated, they begin to form the rhythm of faith. Faith no longer feels like something to remember. It becomes something that flows naturally. Each day is woven with small, intentional actions, invisible threads of strength that hold us steady in a world of constant motion. And within that rhythm, we begin to understand that consistency does not make us rigid. It makes the heart still enough to hear God's voice in every step. When faith becomes breath itself, the journey is no longer about moving forward, but about living fully in each moment. From that stillness, the feet grow ready for the final step, to walk as if heaven itself is calling your name. If you look back on the journey so far, you'll see that every wound, every tear, every moment you fell was never meaningless. Each scar has become a map marking the place where you once stood back up. Each tear has watered the seed of promise that God planted in your heart long ago. All of it has led you to this very moment where your feet have been washed in salt and your heart has learned to walk by faith. Life is not a race to reach the finish line first. It is a pilgrimage, a sacred walk where every step is seen, every moment remembered. When you walk with that awareness, heaven itself leans in to listen, because you are not just walking on the earth, you are writing the next line of the covenant story. The story of a soul that never gave up. Begin your own journey right now. 7 days, 7 small steps, 7 chances for faith to become your breath. Try 7 days of salted steps, a gentle covenant between you and God. A promise that you will keep walking, even when the road feels long. If you're ready for a new season in your life, leave the word SALT in the comments as a sign of beginning. And if you know someone weary on their path, share this message so they'll remember they are not walking alone. Before we close, take a moment to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and whisper in your heart, Lord, I thank you for the road I have walked, for the wounds that have healed, for the days I thought I would fall, yet you lifted me up. Help me keep walking, not in fear, but in faith. Let every step I take today carry the salt of life, of love, and of you. Now open your eyes. The road ahead is still long, but you are no longer the same. And as you walk, remember, you are not just moving forward. You are seen. You are called by name. You are kept. Walk on, as if all of heaven is calling your name.